All right, welcome everyone. Hey Brennan, good to see you. We got a lot of folks signed up for this one today, so it seems that working with Kroger is top of mind for a lot of suppliers these days, and especially this holiday season. But excited to get into it. For anyone who hasn't joined us before, I'm Usman. I'm part of the team at bops here, just leading the go-to-market side. And Brennan, I'll let you quickly introduce yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, Usman. Excited to talk Kroger and on shelf today and how suppliers can build strategies to take action today. I joined Bob's and serve in a capacity focused on CPFR and on shelf certainly is a big part of that process. So excited to
Awesome.
talk today.
Let's get into it. And without further ado, so the main thing that we want to focus on today is we know a lot of suppliers, particularly in the food and grocery space. Kroger is most likely their number two customer after Walmart. And as such, it's a very important customer, especially during these holiday seasons. However, a lot of the suppliers that we partner with, leading up to that partnership, we get a lot of questions from the customer supply chain or the sales teams around how are we seeing the best practices from the leading suppliers who are con- continuously improving their performance with Kroger, continuously showing up as a better partner to Kroger, and continuously kind of improving their overall collaboration with their customers. And so we thought, why not use some of those insights and kind of share them with the wider audience and kind of see if we can help a larger group. So that's kind of the genesis here. And Brennan, I'll let you kind of share your perspective as we get going. So the Kroger opportunity is massive for suppliers, like we mentioned, in the food and grocery space. But what could be some insightful things that suppliers might not recognize below the surface of that large opportunity?
Yeah, right away, I view customer supply chain teams
Mm-hmm.
and their partnership across their collaborative teams. In most instances, Kroger is certainly a growth lever, a big part of your business, and the results matter across your sales and commercial team, your transportation teams, your demand planning teams, and certainly your retail execution teams. Whether you have a retail execution team or retail operations, then ultimately your sales and your organization are certainly critical to performing well within Kroger.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where I'll say within your notes here, where we certainly may not have the number of resources commensurate with sometimes the business of Walmart. One may be because of the size of the business, but the other one is the collaborative nature or a partner on the other side may not be always there for the depth of suppliers.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. And where I'd say some real life example is where you have fewer resources, how do you standardize or learn from where you do? So we'll talk in the future here about the data sharing that Kroger does provide, but it's also just creating the processes with the people that exist within your team. So if you have a supply chain person, are they collaborating and communicating with demand planning? Are they collaborating with their sales partners?
Mm-hmm.
And then taking those insights, both internal and external. So there's certainly an opportunity. In most instances, they have the framework of people, but they may not have how you say robust amount of resources always.
I like it. If I could quickly summarize, because I think you teed us up for the next slide perfectly. So Kroger is an important customer for a lot of these suppliers in the food and grocery category. However, the customer team at the supplier for Kroger might not have necessarily the size or the sophistication from a technology tool standpoint to be able to collaborate with Kroger. However, just because you don't have the size and that sophistication, that does not mean that there aren't opportunities for you to improve your performance. It's basically coming down to how do you make the most of the opportunity you are in, i.e., getting the most value out of the team that you have, and maybe kind of looking at what are some ways that you can augment your team, whether that's through more standardized processes or through a technology solution that can kind of help you bridge the gap of where you are and where you want to be as it relates to your Kroger team, but how that compares to your Walmart team. So moving right along. So this is, I think, Brennan, what you were alluding to as it relates to Kroger's data sharing capabilities. I'll let you take it from here because I feel like you have a pretty good kind of perspective that the audience should hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with most retailers, there is data. In this instance, Kroger, for many years, has led in the instance of sharing the data with you through their 8451 platform. And this goes across the spectrum of information, but we'll keep it to the simple information here where you have inventory and sales data and the typical data that all portals have, not into the sophistication of maybe charts or how to download the data, or can you have an API? Do you have all these, call it back office functions? What I'm saying is there's enough information for you to glean insights, connect insights, and then implement the process for you to take action. Now, within this, just the go-to-market that Kroger displays across different divisions makes it more challenging maybe than some other mass market retailers or large food organizations. So with that, you have to have some sophistication with how do you coordinate sharing the data within your own Kroger team, and where do you have a more broad problem versus a market problem. So there's some granularity and some slicing and dicing that takes maybe some assistance across maybe a share group, not just saying implementing the technology, but how are others tackling this problem is something else for you to think about getting involved with.
Yeah.
And then they do share store level daily data. With this is where the power lies. And I think that when you are given enough data for you to take actions, it's paramount that you partner with your internal partners in order for you to tell a cohesive story that benefits the retailer, Kroger in this instance, but also benefits your team in multiple silos or groups within your team. We'll get into an example here, but you certainly think about if you have store data, you know every single day an item sells, how much inventory an item should have. And if it's not selling, you have the information to show this item is not selling. This item has 10 units or 25 units showing as on hand. It has not received product in 3 months. It's not replenishing. All of these are insights that you can do to the store level, aggregate to market, and then push out to the representative buyers.
Okay, super helpful, Brennan. I have one question that's coming in the chat that I want to get your thoughts on. So, what are some examples of the very important and very relevant data that Kroger does share through 8451? I think you touched upon them in the beginning, but if we can go a level deeper just to share with the audience, because it seems like there's a few questions around this topic, what are some high level / directionally examples you can give of relevant data for suppliers that's coming out from 8451?
Yeah, so in sense, I'll repeat a few of them, but if you have the information with regards to inventory at a store, you have the sales history at a store, and then you have the information that maybe is what you expect to sell in the future through a forecast. These data points allow you to better predict what may happen in the future if you continue to sell at the current rate. If your sales increase or decrease, you can then model expected inventory levels, expected out of stocks. And in this instance, you can then start to bucket what Kroger stores are performing better across your top 5 items, which stores are performing poorly across your top 5 items. Are there specific markets that are over inventoried or under inventory compared to their, call it a suburban area in Cincinnati compared to the Atlanta? Maybe 2 different markets, but the consumer might be similar for your items. So you expect a very similar result, but the data would maybe show you something operationally happening that's not causing out of stocks, or maybe causing lack of orders to replace inventory. So these are insights that you can gather by setting up your processes, but also aligning the data to something that you can take an action on. And we'll share next here, I believe, is where you definitely want to continue to build trust in sharing those specific opportunities with your partners.
Yeah, well, I teed it right up for you, so keep it going, Brennan.
Yep. And I think it's not just specific to Kroger. In any of these instances, you want to be able to drive results with the retailer. But this takes many instances of how I say you may not get a chance to speak to the buyer or to replenishment, but maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, depending on your relationship. However, that you should internally and with your own team and your own self every week creating a package. Hey, what if I had a meeting on Thursday? What would I present this week? Because then this tests your capability, your process development, that every single week you're in the groove of creating a action item. So that way, if you do get an opportunity, you're prepared, you have the muscle building that's taken place. So it's not just waiting for the opportunity, it's building the process and the capability, leveraging the data in order to get there. So this is where we say this mindset shift. I think when you're ready to execute and you put forth the effort across, especially when you go cross-function, if your sales team and if you have retail execution team and your supply chain customer logistics team are all presenting structured insights with actionable recommendations, we've seen our partners make major progress with Kroger in order to fix phantom inventory. We've seen them push product from distribution centers to the store where they've seen products maybe not replenishing as quickly as the consumer is taken away from the shelf. Each of these actions are driving millions of dollars of sales and certainly improving the relationship for ongoing success in the future with Kroger.
That's so well said, and I think I really like how you emphasize the mindset shift part of it, because the suppliers that you reference, the ones that we are working on who are actually taking these collaborative actions with Kroger, they were not doing that before they sort of were almost enlightened to what's possible with Kroger if you show up super prepared, backed by data, and ready to share with Kroger, hey, these are the opportunities that I'm seeing. This is how much value there may be. Let's take it. Let's take it forward. Let's make it happen. So I think there's definitely a mindset shift that we've seen as a critical part of this building a more successful partnership with Kroger. And it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. I think with a lot of the suppliers we partner with, we've seen that. It is a journey, but the team itself has, and the leader of that team itself needs to have that sort of mindset of how can we continuously get better and improve that relationship with Kroger, and how can we continuously get better at showing up as a supplier to Kroger to kind of drive those conversations forward. Anything else? Like if I'm a supplier, Brennan, and I'm kind of listening to this and I've been operating with Kroger a certain way, and like I've had it in the back of my mind that no, you know what, there's a bigger opportunity here, but we aren't able to figure out, like we are not able to take that next step. What sort of perspective would you provide to that person or that team to kind of open up their mind to go on this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly we've shared some key ones, and I want to touch on maybe one instance too that realized that we focus maybe on increasing sales or saying they had phantom inventory, and that is saying Kroger needs to take actions because maybe they own a part of that. What I'd say is that you want to own it together with them because for sure and certain, maybe put on the hat on the other side and say, where do I have too much inventory? Where did I ship too much product in for a particular promotion and we haven't reduced the inventory in a number of weeks? Where do I have waste that needs to be reduced? Where can I turn replenishment off because I know a new modular is upcoming and we're going to have markdowns or we're going to drive more disruption inside each of the Kroger outlets? And that also is something that retailers want to hear is how can you help them yes, we want to improve sales, we want to improve our out of stock situation, but where do I have too much inventory? Both sides of that equation disrupt the ability to operate for the labor and the consumer to enjoy shopping in the store. So tackle both, and be forthcoming with where maybe you did not reach the goal or the target metric as well.
Got it. I think that's very helpful, Brennan, and I think that's a perfect way to close off our webinar today. And we've intentionally sort of gotten feedback from a lot of our audience that, hey, like your content is super valuable. However, I'm so busy, like whether it's the holiday season or whether it's just day-to-day operating, how can we kind of bridge that gap of continuously sharing this content, but meeting our audience where they are? So we've intentionally kind of designed these webinars to be relatively shorter than a typical webinar that you would see out there, but there is a thought process behind it, and it's driven by the feedback that we've heard from you. So, Brennan, thank you again for sharing your perspective on how suppliers can improve their performance with Kroger. And we actually have another webinar scheduled in about 2 weeks. So look out for the recording for this one and the information for the upcoming webinar. And we'll see you very soon. So take care
Thank
and
you, Usman.
take care, Brennan. Thank you.